We're delighted to see so many of our good friends in attendance today. Here upstage with me, I would like to recognize and welcome the Honorable Bill Foster, our representative in Congress. Mr. John W. Madigan from the Board of Directors of our parent organization, the Robert R. McCormick Foundation. And Mr. David Hiller, President and Chief Executive Officer of the McCormick Foundation. Also seated, of course, is Chaplain Wesley Gary, introduced a moment ago, who has served our country in the 1st Division so well for so many years. Thank you, Wes, for being here. Seated with the audience, we are delighted to welcome 3 other members of our Board of Directors, Mr. Jim Dowdle, Mr. Scott Smith, and Mr. Don Wycliffe. We're also honored to have Monsieur Grand Paul, the Consul General of France to the city of Chicago. Mr. David Brummel, Mayor of Warrenville. Oh, in the back. Mr. Randy Hultgren, our state senator. And Miss Donna Smith, Superintendent of Winfield Village. Another special guest is my predecessor, a gentleman of great vision and passion who directed this museum for 19 of its 50 years, Dr. and Lieutenant Colonel retired John Vota. John. It's always important to acknowledge that a day like this is as much about the soldiers who make the history as it is about the museum that presents the history. The 1st Infantry Division that Colonel McCormick loves so much has a long and unrivaled history of exemplary service to our country for 93 years, and it now has several thousand of its troops, including the division headquarters, serving us in Iraq. A brigade at Fort Knox, Kentucky is preparing for deployment next year to Afghanistan. Symbolic of that history and the soldiers who make it, we are welcoming today a very special group of 1st Infantry Division Vietnam veterans. Each of them is the recipient of significant decorations, including the Distinguished Service Cross. I would ask them to stand as I call their names and for you to hold your applause until all are recognized. First, Mr. Victor R. Benkoski, then Sergeant Benkoski. Colonel retired, then Captain Brian H. Cundiff. General retired, then Lieutenant Colonel Paul F. Gorman. And Mrs. Gorman is with us today as well, and we welcome you, Ruth. Mr. Kirk J. James, then Specialist 4. Colonel retired, Jacques Mashinzi and Mrs. Mashinzi. Brigadier General retired, then Captain William J. Mullen III. Colonel retired, Colonel retired, Jack G. Whitted. And I also want to welcome Lieutenant Colonel retired Hugh J. Mills, Jr., recipient of the Silver Star, multiple awards, and the Distinguished Flying Cross, multiple awards. This is the living history of the 1st Infantry Division. Please give them a warm welcome.